everybody, so today I'm going to be showing you guys how to ride a Peruvian horse because surprisingly food isn't the only good thing Peru has, unlike Mr. Rex thinks. But anyways, so today I'm going to be showing you how to ride a Peruvian horse, and there's a lot of steps to take before you begin riding, which are equally as important as those steps when you're riding the actual horse. So we're going to start with that. And the first thing you start with is checking over your whole horse, making sure all the saddlery is in the right places, because if anything's pinching her or is discomforting her, that could cause her to react negatively, such as like bucking or just not having a good time when you're riding, which you don't want. So first you always check the headpieces. You want to make sure that nothing is pinching her skin, because as you can see, Peruvian halters are really intricate and have all these designs. So you want to make sure that nothing is pinching her skin and that this chain on the bottom of her chin isn't too loose or isn't too tight, because that'll affect how much pressure is going on her mouth when you're riding, and then that could just change her whole riding dynamic. And then next you move on to the body. Here you want to make sure the cinch is tight. Of course not too tight where it's hurting her, but just where you can fit 2 fingers, because if the saddle slides you can slip off or the horse can buck and it can hurt her and you. And you also want to make sure that this is tight, and before you ride you put on this piece of leather that's called a bayoneta, and it's so your jeans don't get pinched by the stirrups right here, because sometimes it can get caught, and it's just for comfort usually, because work saddles aren't as comfortable and cushiony as show saddles. And so once you got that on, you move on to her tail. Peruvian attire and riding includes this tail piece that is usually for, you can tell it's for decoration, but it also has a purpose, because under the tail there's a little loop that you can't really see. There's a little loop that holds the tail so the saddle doesn't move backwards, because unlike Western horses, we don't have the part on the chest that holds the saddle. We have it on the back of the horse. And so you want to make sure that under this ring here, there's no tail hairs under it, because that'll pinch the horse and that'll make her super uncomfortable and have a bad ride. And of course, once you've done that and everything's checked out, you want to make sure you have your helmet on, especially these days that it's a lot windier. You don't want to risk anything, because horse falls can be fatal and really dangerous. So let's get on the horse. So once you're on the horse, there's also some steps you need to take before you start riding, and that is just sitting yourself right, like having the right equitation, which is basically just how you look on the horse. And first you start with your heels. You want to make sure your heels are always down, pointing down, because it allows you to be able to tap her on all parts of the belly easily, and it just doesn't look good if your heels are up like this. You want to make sure your heels are always pointing down, and you want to make sure you're sitting in the saddle in the middle. You're well centered, because if you start leaning to one side, the horse is going to tend to lean to that side too, and it'll look awkward when you're riding. And next is your hand positioning. When a horse is well trained in the bit, you use one hand holding both reins in the same spot, like this. But some horses that are still in the process of getting to a one hand hold, you use 2 hands like this, and you grab a rein on each hand, which allows it's like more contact on the bit, and it's just an easier ride. But since this horse, she's really well trained on the bit, I only need to use one hand. And then once you start riding, first you always want to warm up your horse. Besides lunging it without you sitting on the horse, you want to give her a few walking laps around the arena or wherever you are, because it just avoids injury, just like a person would warm up before they run. You want to make sure your horse walks on both sides with a loose rein and just warm her up like that. As you just saw, after the few laps of walking, I put her in gait, and that is called paso llano. It's the Peruvian horse's gait. They don't trot or gallop like the Western horses, like quarter horses or English horses. They have this gait called paso llano, which is a 4-beat gait, It essentially is that they always have 3 feet on the ground, and that allows them to be so smooth. So when you put them in gait first, it's always like a warm-up round, but you help her get into the best gait, and you want to keep that in mind. It's not all the horse. So when you put her in gait, you always want to make sure that your butt is placed really firm on the back of the saddle, because that allows her legs to extend more, and that gives a smoother gait, and it makes her move more distance in a less amount of steps, which is ideal. It shows that your horse has really good gait. You also want to tighten the reins compared to when you're walking, because that makes her head high. That puts her head in a higher position, and that, besides looking beautiful, it also helps her get into a better gait. So once you've done the few rounds of gait, you can start doing maneuvers. And maneuvers that like we do in a Peruvian horse show are circles, figure eights, reverses, stops, backs ups, and cones. So once you want to start doing maneuvers, you start with your leg. You put pressure on your leg, and you can see how she's already starting to turn. I'm not even using my hands that much. I'm just putting pressure on my leg. But if she were not responding to me, I lift my rein a little and I turn, and then she turns her head, because you always want her head to be facing on the inside of the circle. And see, when I push my legs, her butt, she moves with her hands and her butt goes out, which looks really pretty, and that's what you want. And let's say she wasn't responding to me, or she wasn't staying in gait in the circle, I click her on and I use my voice to tell her to focus, and then she'll pick up her speed like this. You can also use your voice if she's just not listening to you. You can say like, hey, hey, and that wakes them up, so they're more alert and more ready to do the maneuvers. So next I'll show you guys how the maneuvers look when you implement all these things. Yeah, I'm gonna start with my leg. And I just did a reverse, and I didn't even have to use my hand. And now for a circle, you do the same thing. Your leg, your voice if she's slowing down. You always pat them when they do a good job, because it's just a reward, and it's and that was a figure eight. And as you can see, you want to try to make all the circles and all the figure eights as even as possible, just so it looks nice, and you know that your horse is doing what you want, not what it wants. And you can see I'm always talking to her if she wants to slow down, and not every circle is going to be perfect because they're a horse and you're a human, but you always want to be talking to her, and she'll follow what your commands say. Like if I want to stop her right now, ho, I use my voice and my body. I say ho, which she knows is stop, but I help her out with leaning my back a little, and that just helps her stop smoother. Now if I want to back up, you have the rein loose once you stop, because that shows her that you can stop. She doesn't need to work, she can just stop for a little. But if I want to back her up, I lift the rein and I use my voice and I pull a little, but not a lot, because she doesn't need it, and that just hurts her mouth. So you go back, 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 ho. See, I just used my voice, and she didn't really need the hand help because she knows that back up is to back up. But if you ever need it, you just pull a little on the rein like this, back, and you release. Every time she starts backing up, you release, so then it's not constant pressure. And once you've gotten all that down and you practice a lot, you should be a professional rider. Thanks for watching, guys.